He came to throw her out of her home. But when the billionaire saw that woman standing there, with four hungry little faces behind her, something inside him changed forever. The black Rolls-Royce stopped at the end of a narrow street, where broken houses leaned against each other like tired souls. Inside the car sat Ethan Cole, a man worth billions, known for his sharp mind and colder heart. Every deal he made built his empire higher, while people like her, those who couldn't pay rent, were just numbers on a balance sheet. Today, he was here to erase another number. He stepped out, his polished shoes sinking slightly into the dirt road. The house before him looked ready to collapse. Paint chipped, a torn curtain fluttering in the window, a door that looked like it hadn't been replaced in years. But from inside came laughter. Soft, innocent laughter. It threw him off for a second. He walked to the door and knocked firmly. It opened a moment later. The woman standing there wasn't what he expected. Maya Thompson, young, tired, but holding herself with quiet pride. Her clothes were worn, her eyes showed sleepless nights, yet there was something strong in the way she looked at him. "Yes?" she asked softly, blocking the doorway with her body. Ethan adjusted his tie. "I'm Ethan Cole, the property owner. You were supposed to vacate this house last month." Her shoulders dropped slightly. "I know," she whispered. "Please, I'm trying. I just need a little more time." Behind her, a small boy peeked out, no older than 7. His face was thin, but his eyes were full of light. "Mom, is everything okay?" "It's fine, sweetheart," she said gently. "Go play with your sisters." Ethan's gaze followed the boy as he ran back inside, his laughter echoing through the small living room. For a moment, the billionaire felt something, an unfamiliar ache. But he brushed it off. "Ms. Thompson," he said firmly, "you've been given notices for months. I can't extend this anymore. You'll need to leave by the end of the week." Her lips trembled slightly. "Please, sir. I just got a second job at the diner. If I can make 2 payments, can I stay?" He hesitated, just for a second, but his business instincts took over. "I'm sorry. It's out of my hands." Just then, a little girl sitting on the floor caught his eye. She was drawing on a torn piece of cardboard with a broken crayon. Her drawing showed a big house, a shining sun, and 5 smiling stick figures, 1 woman and 4 kids. "Mommy," she said, looking up, "when we get our big house, can we have a backyard?" Maya smiled through her tears. "One day, baby." Ethan's chest tightened. He wanted to look away but couldn't. For a moment, he saw his own past, his mother, years ago, holding him close when his father walked out. But that was a lifetime ago. He wasn't that boy anymore. He cleared his throat. "Friday," he said coldly, and turned to leave. He had reached his car door when he heard a baby cry from inside. He turned back, just in time to see Maya gently picking up an infant from an old crib. She rocked the baby in her arms, whispering softly, exhaustion written across her face. And that's when he noticed there weren't just 2 or 3 children. There were 4. 4 small lives. 4 souls depending on one tired mother who refused to give up. Something in that image followed him all the way back to his penthouse that night. The city lights glittered below him, 1,000 stories burning quietly. But his mind kept returning to that tiny house, the cracked porch, the baby's cry, the girl's drawing. He poured himself a drink, but didn't touch it. For the first time in years, the billionaire couldn't sleep. The next morning, his assistant found him already in his office, staring at a file. It was everything he had ordered overnight. Maya Thompson's background. Widowed 3 years ago. Husband killed in an accident. Working double shifts at a local diner to raise 4 children alone. No family, no savings, no safety net. Ethan leaned back in his chair, running a hand over his face. He'd seen poverty before, but something about her story felt personal. Maybe because she wasn't asking for pity, just time. Hours later, he found himself back in that neighborhood, against every logical reason he had. His driver looked confused but didn't ask questions. When he stepped out again, Maya was outside, kneeling beside a broken bicycle, trying to fix it while her son held the wheel steady. Her hands were rough, her clothes dusty, but there was a calm determination in her face. She looked up, startled. "Mr. Cole." He nodded. "I wanted to talk." Her guard went up instantly. "If this is about the rent, I told you." "It's not," he interrupted. "I just wanted to understand, why stay here? You've known for weeks you might lose this house." She looked away, her voice low. "Because this is all we have. My kids call it home. They've already lost their father. I couldn't make them lose this too. For a long moment, Ethan didn't say anything. Her words sank deep. He thought about all the houses he owned, all the buildings, hotels, mansions, and how none of them had ever felt like home. As he watched her holding that bike steady for her son, something inside him cracked open, the smallest piece of humanity that success had buried long ago. He didn't know it yet, but from that moment on, his life was about to change forever. That night, Ethan couldn't get her words out of his head. They've already lost their father. I couldn't make them lose this too. He stared at the city lights outside his penthouse windows, the same view that used to remind him of success, power, and control. But tonight, it only made him feel empty. The next morning, he told himself he was just checking in. That was the excuse he gave his driver when he asked why they were going back to that neighborhood again. When Ethan arrived, Maya was outside, folding laundry on a small plastic table. Her youngest two were sitting nearby, playing with old toys. The baby slept in a stroller beside her. When she saw him, she froze, her hands trembling slightly. "Mr. Cole? I didn't expect you." Ethan nodded, awkward for the first time in years. "I was in the area. Thought I'd stop by." She gave a faint, nervous smile. "Well, as you can see, we're still here." He didn't respond right away. He noticed the way her hands moved quickly, folding tiny shirts with precision. Every motion spoke of exhaustion, but also love, the kind that never gave up. After a long pause, he asked, "Do your kids go to school around here?" "Yes," she said softly. "The three older ones. The baby's too young. The school's about a mile away, but we walk. The bus fare adds up." He looked at the cracked shoes by the door, the tiny ones lined neatly next to hers. Something tugged at him again. "Can I meet them?" he asked hesitantly. She looked uncertain, but nodded. "Kids, come say hello." Within seconds, four small faces appeared at the doorway, curious, shy, and a little scared. The oldest, maybe 10, stepped forward first. "Hi, sir," he said politely. Ethan smiled a little. "Hey, champ. What's your name?" "Marcus." "And your sisters?" "I'm Lily," said the little artist from before, clutching her drawing book. "That's Kayla, and the baby's Noah." "Nice to meet you," Ethan said quietly, realizing how strange it felt to say those words, like he hadn't met anyone for real in a long time. Lily tilted her head. "You have kids?" He froze. The question hit harder than he expected. "No," he said softly. "No, I don't." She smiled innocently. "You should. They make you laugh even when you don't want to." Maya quickly called them back inside, embarrassed. "They talk too much sometimes." Ethan shook his head. "They're good kids." He got back in his car, but didn't leave right away. From the window, he watched them play in the yard, a small patch of dirt and broken bricks, yet filled with laughter that no mansion could buy. Over the next few days, he found himself driving there again and again, each time with a different excuse, checking the property, signing documents, just passing by. But every visit chipped away a little more of the wall he'd built around himself. One afternoon, he arrived with something in his trunk, a large box. Maya came out, wiping her hands on her apron. "Mr. Cole, you don't have to keep coming here. We'll be gone soon, I promise." He gestured to the box. "It's for the kids." She frowned. "What is it?" He opened it, revealing a used but sturdy bicycle, shiny red, with new tires and a small basket. "I noticed Marcus was trying to fix the old one. Thought this might help." Her eyes widened. "You bought this?" "It's nothing," he said quickly. "Just an extra I had lying around." It wasn't. He'd driven across town that morning to find it. Maya's voice softened. "You didn't have to do that." "I know." When Marcus came out and saw it, his face lit up brighter than the sun. "Mom, a bike. A real one." Ethan felt something he hadn't in years. Warmth spreading through his chest, unexplainable but powerful. "Thank you, sir," Marcus said, gripping the handlebars. "I'm going to take my sisters for rides." Ethan smiled genuinely this time. "Just don't crash it." That laughter, the kind only a child can make, followed him back to his car, echoing in his head long after he left. Later that night, he opened a folder on his desk, the eviction papers. He stared at them for a long time before finally closing it. Not tearing it up. Not yet. Just closing it. The next day, he did something even he couldn't explain. He went to the diner where Maya worked. The place was small, old, and half empty. She was behind the counter, wearing a faded uniform, her hair tied up in a bun. She didn't see him walk in until she turned with a tray in her hands and froze. "Mr. Cole, coffee," he said simply, taking a seat. She poured it nervously, her hands shaking a little. "This isn't your kind of place." He shrugged. "Maybe it should be." She gave a small smile, unsure whether to laugh or be afraid. "You came to check on us again, didn't you?" He stirred his coffee. "You could say that. You don't have to feel sorry for us," she said quietly. "We've been through worse. We'll make it." "It's not pity," he said, his voice lower now. "It's respect." She looked at him, surprised. "Respect? You're doing more alone than most people do with help." "I see that." For the first time, her guard dropped a little. The hardness in her eyes softened. "Thank you." When he left the diner, something felt different. It wasn't guilt or charity, it was connection. The kind he hadn't felt since his mother's death years ago. That night, Ethan stood in front of the mirror in his penthouse. For the first time, he didn't see the powerful man the world knew. He saw someone lonely, disconnected, and hungry for something real. He glanced at the eviction papers again. Then he picked up the phone. "Cancel it," he told his lawyer. "What?" "Sir, that's a high-value property. We already." "Cancel it," Ethan repeated, his tone firm. "She's not leaving." He hung up, sat down, and exhaled. For once, it felt like the right decision. He didn't know what the next step would be. But he knew one thing for sure. That woman and her children had just changed the course of his life. And deep down, he wasn't sure if he was ready for what came next. The next morning, Maya woke to a knock at her door. She opened it cautiously and froze. Standing on her porch again, in the same perfectly tailored suit, was Ethan Cole. Only this time, his face looked different. Softer. "Mr. Cole," she said, tightening her robe. "If this is about the eviction, it's not," he interrupted gently. "You're not being evicted." She blinked, unsure if she heard right. "What?" "I canceled it," he said simply. "You can stay." For a moment, she just stood there, speechless. Her lips trembled as she whispered, "Why?" Ethan hesitated. "Let's just say, I think you deserve a chance." Her eyes filled with tears, but she quickly wiped them away. "I don't know what to say." "You don't have to," he said quietly. "Just take care of those kids. That's enough." He turned to leave, but little footsteps ran to the door. "Mr. Cole." It was Lily, clutching her sketchbook. "Are you staying for breakfast?" Ethan looked at Maya. She gave a hesitant smile. "We don't have much, but you're welcome to join." Something about her voice, tired, yet warm, made it impossible to refuse. "Sure," he said. Inside, the air smelled like toast and old coffee. The furniture was worn, the walls cracked, but laughter filled every inch of that house. He sat at the small table as the kids passed him plates and questions faster than he could answer. "Do you really have a helicopter? Is your house bigger than a hotel? Do rich people eat pancakes?" He couldn't help laughing. "Sometimes," he said, "but yours are better." Maya watched him from the stove, her eyes studying him quietly. She'd seen men with money before, cold, proud, untouchable. But this man sitting at her table, helping Noah wipe syrup off his face, didn't look like any billionaire she'd ever imagined. When breakfast ended, Ethan stood up. "I should go, but I'll be back soon." "Why?" Marcus asked. Ethan smiled faintly. "Because I owe you a race on that new bike." The kids cheered, and as he stepped outside, Maya followed him to the porch. "You really didn't have to do all this," she said softly. "I know," he replied. "But I wanted to." She nodded, speechless again. He gave her a small nod and walked toward his car. But before he got in, he turned back and looked at the house, small, broken, and yet more alive than his entire penthouse. For the first time, he felt something close to peace. In the following weeks, Ethan kept coming back. Sometimes he brought groceries. Other times, books for the kids or small repairs for the house. He didn't ask for anything in return. He simply showed up. Maya tried to resist at first. Pride kept her from accepting too much. But Ethan's kindness was quiet, steady, never demanding. Slowly, the walls she'd built around herself began to fall. One evening, after work, she came home to find Ethan in the yard, helping Marcus fix the fence. He'd rolled up his sleeves, dirt on his hands, sweat on his forehead. "You're supposed to be a billionaire," she said, smiling as she walked up. "Not a handyman." He looked up, laughing. "Maybe I needed a change." She handed him a bottle of water. "Why are you really doing all this?" He paused, looking at her carefully. "Because for years, I built walls instead of homes. and I think I'm finally learning the difference." She didn't reply, but her eyes softened. In that quiet, something unspoken passed between them, something neither of them was ready to name. Days turned into weeks. The kids grew attached to him like he'd always been there. Marcus followed him around, asking endless questions about business and success. Lily drew him pictures of the big house she still dreamed about. Kayla would climb into his lap when he read bedtime stories, and baby Noah, without fail, would reach for his watch every time he visited. One Sunday afternoon, Ethan arrived with a surprise. "Everyone outside," he said, smiling. The kids ran out, squealing. In the yard stood a large wooden play set, swings, a slide, and a small sandbox. Marcus gasped, "Is that for us?" Ethan nodded. "Every kid needs a place to play." Lily hugged him around the waist. "Thank you, Mr. Cole." Maya stood at the doorway, covering her mouth with her hand. Her eyes glistened. "You didn't have to. I wanted to," he said again. That evening, as the sun went down, the two of them sat on the porch steps watching the kids play. The laughter, the golden light, the gentle breeze, it all felt like a different world. Maya broke the silence first. "You know, they talk about you like you're some kind of superhero." He chuckled softly. "I'm far from that. You've done more for us than anyone ever has." He turned to her. "You did that yourself, Maya. I just gave you a little time." She looked at him then, really looked, beyond the suit, the money, the power. And for the first time, she saw not a billionaire, but a man who was lonely, broken, and trying to remember how to care again. As night fell, Ethan stood to leave. The kids waved from the yard, shouting goodnight. Maya watched him go, her heart heavier than she wanted to admit. He stopped halfway to his car and turned back. "Maya, yes. Would you and the kids join me for dinner tomorrow? Somewhere nice. My treat." She hesitated. "I don't think we'd fit in where you eat." He smiled. "Then I'll find a place where we both do." And that night, as she tucked her children into bed, Maya realized something she hadn't felt in years: hope. The next evening, Maya stood in front of the small mirror in her room, nervously adjusting her dress. It wasn't new, just the nicest one she owned. Her daughters giggled as they helped each other get ready, and Marcus stood proudly in a shirt that was a little too big for him. A shiny black car stopped outside the house. Ethan stepped out, dressed more simply than usual. No suit, no tie, just a clean white shirt and a soft smile. For a man who usually carried himself like the world was his, tonight, he looked human. "Wow," Maya said quietly as she opened the door. "You clean up nice." He grinned. "So do you." The kids came running out, their faces glowing with excitement. "Mr. Cole, where are we going?" "You'll see," he said, opening the car door for them. "It's a surprise." As they drove through the city, the kids pressed their faces to the windows, gasping at every tall building and glittering light. For them, it was a world they'd never seen up close. When the car finally stopped, Maya's eyes widened. They were standing in front of a cozy family restaurant, not one of those fancy places where you could hear your own heartbeat. The place glowed warmly, with laughter and soft music spilling from inside. Inside, the hostess led them to a private table near the window. Ethan had made sure it was quiet, comfortable, no stares, no judgment. The waiter came, and before anyone could speak, Ethan smiled. "Bring us the biggest plate of spaghetti you've got, and extra garlic bread. These kids look hungry." The children laughed, and Maya relaxed for the first time all evening. As the food arrived, Ethan watched them eat with the kind of quiet joy he hadn't felt in years. There was something healing about it, the way they shared, teased, and laughed over every bite. "Mr. Cole," Lily said between mouthfuls, "do rich people ever eat spaghetti?" He smiled. "Only when they're really lucky." Marcus leaned forward. "Did you always have money?" The question made Ethan pause. "No," he said softly. "When I was your age, I lived in a place smaller than your house. My mom worked 3 jobs. I used to tell her that one day, I'd buy her the biggest house in the city." "Did you?" Marcus asked. Ethan's eyes lowered. "No. She passed away before I made my first million." The table went quiet. Maya looked at him gently. "I'm sorry." He nodded. "She's the reason I worked so hard. But somewhere along the way, I forgot why I started. I was chasing something that didn't fill the space she left behind." Maya reached across the table, touching his hand lightly. "She'd be proud of you. Not because of the money, but because you still have a heart." He smiled faintly, the kind of smile that hides tears. "Maybe." I just wish I'd realized sooner that success means nothing if you have no one to share it with. Lily interrupted softly. You can share it with us. Ethan chuckled, blinking away the emotion. You know what, Lily? I just might. The rest of the evening passed like a dream. They talked, laughed, and for once, Ethan wasn't the billionaire everyone feared. He was just Ethan, the man who found peace in a small family's company. When dinner ended, he paid quietly before Maya could argue. As they stepped outside, the city lights reflected in the kids' eyes like stars. Can we do this again? Kayla asked, holding his hand. Ethan smiled down at her. Anytime you want. Maya looked at him, her heart full. You really didn't have to go through all this trouble. He looked back at her, his voice softer now. Maybe I needed this more than you think. On the drive back, the kids fell asleep one by one, their heads resting against each other. The car was filled with the kind of silence that felt like warmth. Ethan glanced at them through the rearview mirror, and a small, genuine smile appeared on his face. When they reached the house, Maya gently lifted baby Noah from the seat, while Ethan carried Lily, who had fallen asleep on his shoulder. He laid her carefully on the couch and stood there for a moment, watching the kids breathe peacefully. You've done an amazing job, he said quietly, raising them, keeping them safe. Maya looked at him with tired but proud eyes. Some days, I don't even know how I do it. He turned to her. You do it because you love them. And that kind of love, it's the strongest thing in the world. For a moment, neither of them moved. The room was still, filled with something unspoken but deeply real. Mr. Cole, she started, but he shook his head. Ethan, he said softly. Just Ethan. She smiled. Thank you, Ethan, for everything. He nodded. Good night, Maya. As he stepped outside, he glanced back one last time. The small, broken house that had once been just another address now felt like the only place that truly mattered. Over the next few weeks, his life began to change in ways no one around him could understand. His employees noticed he smiled more. His assistant caught him canceling meetings just to run an errand. He donated money to the local school, quietly setting up scholarships for children, starting with Marcus and Lily. And yet, every time he went back to Maya's house, he felt the same humble peace he couldn't find anywhere else. One evening, he arrived with something different in his voice. Maya, he said, stepping onto the porch. There's something I want to show you tomorrow. All of you. She frowned slightly. What is it? He smiled. You'll see. The next morning, his car pulled up again. The family climbed in, confused but excited. They drove out of the city, through quiet streets and open fields, until finally, they stopped in front of a large white house with a garden full of blooming flowers. The kids gasped. It looks just like my drawing. Lily shouted, clutching her sketchbook. Maya turned to Ethan, her voice trembling. What is this? He took a deep breath. It's your new home. She froze. No, Ethan, we can't accept this. He stepped closer, his voice soft but certain. You can. Because it's already yours. Tears filled her eyes. Why would you do this for us? He smiled gently. Because once, someone gave me a chance when I didn't deserve it. And now it's my turn. Maya covered her mouth, sobbing quietly as her children ran toward the garden, laughing, shouting, touching everything with wonder. Ethan watched them from the driveway, a tear slipping down his cheek, one he didn't bother to hide. For the first time in his life, the billionaire didn't feel powerful or rich. He just felt whole. Weeks passed, and the once quiet house at the edge of the city now overflowed with laughter. Maya's children had claimed every corner, running through the garden, chasing butterflies, and leaving trails of joy wherever they went. For the first time in years, their laughter wasn't interrupted by fear. Ethan visited often, sometimes with groceries, sometimes with toys, but most of the time with nothing more than his presence. He'd sit on the porch with Maya, watching the kids play as the sun went down behind the trees. One afternoon, as the sky glowed orange, Maya handed him a cup of coffee. You didn't have to do all this, she said softly. The house, the help, the school for the kids. I don't even know how to thank you. He smiled, taking the cup from her. You already have. She frowned. How? He looked toward the children, then back at her. By reminding me what life is supposed to feel like. You gave me back something I lost a long time ago. Her voice dropped to a whisper. What's that? Peace, he said simply. For a moment, they both sat quietly, the air heavy with emotion and something unspoken. Then Maya smiled, glancing toward the kids. They adore you, you know. You've become their hero. Ethan chuckled softly. I think they're mine. He spent that evening helping Marcus fix his bicycle, reading to Lily and Kayla before bed, and tucking baby Noah in with the gentleness of a man who had once forgotten how to care. As he left the room, Maya stood in the hallway, watching him quietly. You're good with them, she said. He turned to her. I never had kids. I always told myself I was too busy. But now, I wonder if I missed out on the only thing that really matters. She smiled sadly. It's never too late to start caring. The way she said it lingered between them like a promise. One morning, Ethan showed up earlier than usual. He looked different, calmer, yet with a spark of excitement in his eyes. Maya, there's something I want to tell you, he said, his voice steady but emotional. She looked concerned. What is it? I've been doing some thinking. I'm selling one of my companies, the biggest one, actually. Her eyes widened. Selling? Why? Isn't that your life's work? He nodded. It was. But now, I realize my life's not in skyscrapers or boardrooms. It's right here, with people who make me feel alive again. She stared at him, speechless. I want to build something real, he continued. Something that helps families like yours, single mothers, people who work hard but never get a chance. I'm calling it the Second Chance Foundation. Tears welled up in Maya's eyes. That's beautiful, Ethan. He smiled faintly. It's because of you. You showed me that sometimes the people who have the least give the most. I just want to return that gift. She stepped closer, her voice trembling. You've already done so much for us. You don't owe me anything. He met her gaze. Maybe not. But I want to. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The wind carried the sound of laughter from the garden. The air between them was full of warmth, the kind that needed no words. Months later, the foundation's first housing project opened, small but full of life. Families who had been forgotten were now given homes, education, and hope. Cameras flashed, reporters asked questions, but Ethan's eyes searched for one person in the crowd. He found her, standing a few steps back, holding baby Noah, her smile soft and proud. When the press conference ended, he walked over to her. You made this happen, he said quietly. She shook her head. No, Ethan. You did. He smiled. Maybe we both did. As they stood there, surrounded by families, kids, and a future brighter than either had imagined, something shifted. Ethan took her hand gently. Maya, I don't want to just build homes. I want to build a life, with you, if you'll let me. Her eyes widened, tears slipping down her cheeks. Are you sure? He nodded slowly. I've never been more sure of anything. She laughed through her tears. Then yes. Yes, Ethan. In that moment, the man who had once come to evict her became the man who chose to stand beside her. The billionaire who thought he had everything finally found what he'd been missing: love, family, and peace. Years later, that same house on the hill echoed with laughter once more. But now, it was their laughter. Ethan and Maya's foundation had grown into a nationwide movement, helping thousands of families start fresh. And every evening, as the sun dipped low, Ethan would sit on the porch, baby Noah on his lap, Marcus fixing bikes nearby, and the girls chasing fireflies in the garden. He often thought back to the day he'd first met them, the day he came to take away their home and instead found his own. Because sometimes, life doesn't give you what you expect. It gives you what you need. And for Ethan Cole, that need was a woman with 4 children and a heart big enough to change a billionaire's soul forever. If this story touched your heart, make sure to hit like, subscribe, and share it with someone who believes in second chances. Because sometimes, kindness can change everything.